So I have one other question, kind of a sticky one for me, and we've already touched on it somewhat. I have several patients who are wanting me to fill out their disability papers. And that's a very delicate situation for me in that I recognize they're ill, but I don't think I'm wanting to support them beating the drum of I'm ill, because once the government says, yes, you're disabled, or the insurance company, then they're going to keep on beating that drum, I believe. I mean, how do I, do you have some insight for me how to address that?
Well, here's the thing. The disability paper or status in and of itself is neither wrong nor right. Could you just take it as this is where I am? In other words, I am where I am, and where I am is all right. I am where I am, and where I am is all right. So just rest for that a little bit, and in your mind, see it as a temporary state of being for them. And then ask yourself, will this action give them relief here and now? In other words, what would it mean to them? It would mean money will flow to them for a while they get their balance. Is that why they want it?
Well, I think so. I think that's the motivation, and maybe that's what needs to be clarified. What is your motivation for doing this? Do we need to know?
Well, think about what the motivation would be. Do you know anybody that would like to wear a plaque around that says, I'm disabled? Maybe. And why do people argue for their limitations? What is it that makes someone argue? We hear it from time to time, even in a forum like this. Someone will argue for where they are.
Someone owes me.
Sometimes they feel entitled, but what's at the heart of that? What's at the essence of that? In other words, everyone innately knows that they have value. Now, this is going to feel personal to you as we talk about this. Everyone innately knows that they have value. But when in any moment, for whatever reason, they're measured and they don't win, they're compared and they don't win, they are condemned about something, they're found fault with, because there are so many people running around who don't know anything about closing their own gap, who are counting on others to behave in ways that make them feel good. So a lot of people have really been sort of hounded into not appreciating themselves very much. So when the larger part of you knows your value, but you've been trained to not know your value, there is a big discordant thing going on within you that you're trying to reconcile in some way. In other words, in the same way that water flows downhill, everyone knows that they're supposed to feel good. Everyone innately knows it. And when they don't, without understanding why they don't, they go to all kinds of different behavior and gyrations and come to as many conclusions as they can in order to bring themselves to a place of feeling as good as they can possibly feel. It's sort of in the same category of, I don't want those grapes that I cannot reach because they're probably sour anyway. Have you ever wanted something, and in your realization that you want something that you can't have, you wish you didn't want it? And it almost feels like the wanting of it is the reason that you feel uncomfortable, because you haven't figured out that it's your resistance that's keeping you out of whack about it. Well, there are a lot of people that have this discord going on, and the more contrasting their life is, the more they've become, but the more they are fixated on what is, the less they become what they've become, until they get a strong discordant thing going on, and then they're just looking for some kind of relief somehow, some way. So you've heard us say we're over here in their vibrational escrow, knowing who they really are, holding to the vibration of who they really are, sending the signal of who they are, law of attraction responding to that signal, which gives them the sensation of being called toward who they really are. But as we said earlier today, if who they really are is pure positive energy and the achievement of all things wanted, and they're over here in despair, that call to them would feel just like revenge if they could hear it at all. And it would be a step in the right direction in terms of the relationship between who they're being and who they really are. Most of the world who sees anyone in revenge or resentment or hatred or anger would say, that's wrong-headed, that's wrong behavior. But they would be wrong, because it's the right direction from where this person is in relationship to who they really are, you see. So the question that we want to put to you is, where in this range of recovery from despair and disempowerment into hope and belief and knowing, where on that range of recovery are the disability papers? Are they downstream or upstream?
They're probably downstream.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
They're downstream.
Right.
It's the best they can figure out how to do from where
right.
they are. It's the right thing from where they are, you see. Now we have another big one for you. So someone is really, really sick. You don't know how they got there. It doesn't matter. The tests show that they are. And they've gone through traditional medicine, which you don't agree with, because you know it could be better. But there they are anyway. Where is traditional medicine from their despair and fear between there and their recovery? Is traditional medicine downstream or upstream?
I think it's downstream if it's providing relief.
Of course it is.
Any degree of relief.
Of course it is. In other words, doesn't that just feel better? Aren't you just glad that disability is there and that traditional medicine is there? Because as right as we are, if they can't hear us, we're not helping them. Of course, it's all about vibration. And of course, medicine is about spirituality. Of course, it's all about alignment. But there are lots of people that don't want to hear us talk about vibration.
Right.
It keeps being edited out. That's why the secret is still a secret. In other words, nobody wants to really talk, and they're not keeping it a secret because they want to hold it to themselves. They're keeping it a secret because they don't think people are ready to hear it. And they're not wrong about that. In other words, there are a lot of people that aren't ready to know what you know, what we know. And so some of the stuff that they're doing, while it isn't the answer that they're looking for, and it's not going to get them to where they think they want to go, it's better than the fear that they're feeling. We're not proponents of revenge either.
Right.
In other words, we wouldn't write a book that says revenge is a really good thing.
Right.
It wouldn't go well for Jerry and Esther. But revenge is a really good thing for someone who's feeling powerless. It's a step in the right direction, you see.
Right.
So we'd say to anyone who's wanting the disability, we say, sure, if you think that's the best thing for you, I'll go along with that as a temporary solution to you. It's not where I see you. I don't for a moment see you as disabled. I can see you on a strong path of recovery, and I know we're coming along here, and my expectation that things are going to go very well for you. But meanwhile, nothing wrong with this, to sort of tide you over for a little while, and then say, just don't get stuck here, because it's not who you are. It's a temporary solution from where you've been, and it is a step in the right direction, but let's keep stepping.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.